Given the recent and shameful scandal in the Veterans Affairs system, what will you do to ensure that our veterans are receiving the care that they deserve?
Well, that has been an issue of mine since I got in Congress, because I knew as a doctor, and most doctors in America have trained in a VA, and we applaud our veterans for not only serving our country, but for being part of training so many of our doctors. But I knew that there was a lack of productivity, and I sought to meet with many of the administrators of the VA hospitals. I asked the administrators one time at a hearing if any of them ever been in private practice where they had to be in the black. None of them had. And so I arranged a meeting with many of the administrators, and before we actually met, the stories from Phoenix broke. And we solved firsthand what can happen with increased bureaucracy and a government-run healthcare system where there is incentive to hide a wait list. And who suffers? The veteran. It is the veteran that should be the one taken care of. If you ask someone at the VA who they work for, they should not tell you the VA, they should say they work for the veteran. Productivity is low. Private practices see 3 times as many patients on average in many specialties in primary care than they do at the VA. And that's because doctors and healthcare providers are bogged down with paperwork, more administrative duties. And the Inspector General had stated that as Congress gave more money to the VA, it was spent more on bureaucracy. I'm on the VA committee. There's 4 doctors on the VA committee, bipartisan. We have worked very hard, and as a group we've worked very hard. I was a conferee with the Senate, and this is a great example of how we can work together and come to conclusions and find common ground. We have a bill in place that's going to allow greater access for patients. They can go outside of the VA if their wait is too long or if their drive is too far. And in the long run, I want our VAs to be centers of excellence, especially around topics that are unique to our troops, such as TBI, PTSD, the effects of Agent Orange, and other maladies that come from serving in the military.
Thank you. Mr. Tyszkiewicz.
I want to address something. I heard some talk about the bureaucracy in the VA and how the corporate world's so much better. Actually, part of my job working as an actuary, I worked for one of the largest consulting firms in the world. I was in charge of their national public sector business in the U.S., 17,000 employees, largest employer of actuaries in the country at the time. And I tell you, the bureaucracy in a large corporation is no different than the bureaucracy in government. I mean, I think bureaucracy just comes with any large entity. And the kind of stuff you see in the VA, I've seen the same stuff in corporations. You know, in corporations, you know, CEOs get their bonuses based on performance. During the year, all of a sudden the rules change on how they're evaluated. So they always end up getting their bonuses at the end, you know. And so in the VA, with the wait list, you saw that same kind of thing come down from senior management. I agree, you know, the focus needs to be on customer service, but instead it turned into metrics, like how many patients do you see? And that's when you start losing the customer service. The VA has to go get back to customer service. Now, for me, my dad was in the Polish Army, my uncle was in the Polish Army. Polish Army, actually, if you're in the Polish Army, you get service from the VA once you become a citizen after 10 years. So I've spent a lot of my time taking my dad and my uncle to the VA. My brother's a retired warden who also works in the VA now, who's retired as a social worker. And he points out the same thing. You get people, administrative people at the top, who make rules, who don't understand how things work. You know, one of the things the VA did to try to improve customer service was to make the doctors work on weekends, right? How many doctors want to work on weekends? Guess what happened to the doctors at the VA, right? They all said a bunch of doctors left the VA and now the patients are suffering. So that's kind of the bureaucracy or the kind of thinking that happens in senior management that, you know, I will address when I'm in Congress.